you don't notice you're burning out. That's the first thing to understand. By the time most people recognize burnout, they're already collapsed on the floor of it. But for you, it started weeks ago, maybe months, in a quiet, almost invisible way that didn't look like anything was wrong. You were still showing up, still answering the messages, still doing the work, still being the person everyone counts on. And that is exactly why you missed it. INFJ burnout doesn't look like burnout. It looks like competence, with the light slowly going out behind the eyes. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that happens to people who feel everything and process it inwardly. The psychologist Herbert Freudenberger, who coined the term burnout in the 1970s, originally described it not in factory workers or executives, but in helpers, in people whose nervous systems were constantly tuned to the needs of others, people who gave more emotional bandwidth than they had and didn't notice until something inside them quietly went offline. That is the INFJ pattern, almost exactly. And the warning signs, the real ones, are not the ones the internet talks about. They're quieter, stranger, easier to dismiss. So let's name them slowly. Because if any of these feel familiar, you're not lazy, you're not broken, and you're not imagining it. Your system has been trying to tell you something. The first sign is that things you used to love start to feel like obligations. The book you were excited to read sits on the nightstand untouched. The hobby that used to make you feel alive feels like one more thing on the list. Even the people you genuinely love, the small circle, the safe ones, start to feel like effort, not because anything changed about them, but because something inside you no longer has the energy to meet them. This is not depression, although it can look like it. This is what happens when your inner world, the place you usually go to recharge, has run out of room. There's no quiet space left inside you to hold one more thing. Even good things start to feel heavy. The second sign is that small decisions become impossible. What to eat, what to wear, whether to reply to a message now or later. Decisions that should take 3 seconds suddenly take 20 minutes, or don't get made at all. You stand in front of the fridge and feel something close to despair about choosing dinner. The psychologist Baumeister called this ego depletion, the idea that self-regulation runs on a limited resource, and when it's drained, even tiny choices feel monumental. For INFJs, this depletion happens faster than most people realize, because so much of your daily energy is being spent on invisible work, reading the room, managing other people's moods, anticipating needs nobody voiced, filtering what you say so it lands gently. By the time you get to the fridge at 8 p.m., there is nothing left to decide with. The third sign is more subtle. You start to feel emotionally flat around people you love. You're with your partner, your closest friend, someone you would normally feel deeply with, and you feel nothing, not bad, not annoyed, just blank. The warmth doesn't rise. The presence isn't there. You're going through the motions of the conversation, and a quiet part of you is wondering what is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. This is your nervous system protecting itself. Stephen Porges, in his work on polyvagal theory, describes how the body shifts into a kind of functional shutdown when it's overwhelmed for too long. You're not cold. You're not falling out of love. Your system has simply pulled back the emotional volume because it cannot sustain the level of feeling it usually carries. It's a form of self-preservation. and it's reversible, but only if you listen. The fourth sign is that you start craving solitude in a way that scares you a little, not the usual INFJ alone time, not the recharge after a long day, something deeper. You start fantasizing about canceling everything, disappearing for a week, moving to a cabin, not answering the phone for a month. And there's a guilt that comes with it because you love the people in your life and you don't understand why you suddenly want to vanish from all of them. That craving isn't a rejection of them. It's your system signaling that the gap between how much you give and how much you replenish has become too wide. The body is asking for repair time, the kind of repair that cannot happen in 20 minutes between obligations. The fifth sign is that you become hypersensitive to small things. A noise that wouldn't normally bother you feels unbearable. A slightly cold message from someone lingers in your mind for hours. The wrong tone of voice from a stranger ruins your afternoon. You feel raw, like there's no protective layer between you and the world. Elaine Aron's research on highly sensitive people shows that sensory processing sensitivity isn't a fixed level. It fluctuates. When you're depleted, your threshold drops. Things that would normally register as background noise start to feel like assault. This isn't you being dramatic. This is a nervous system without its usual reserves. And the sixth sign, the one almost no one talks about, is that your inner voice goes quiet. For an INFJ, this one is the most disorienting. Your intuition is usually so present. You know things you can't explain. You read situations before they unfold. You feel a sense of inner knowing that has guided you your whole life. And then, in burnout, it goes silent. You stop having insights. You stop dreaming vividly. You stop feeling the quiet pull toward what's right. You feel mentally fogged in a way that feels almost foreign to who you are. And this is often the moment INFJs panic, because losing access to your inner world feels like losing access to yourself. But your intuition hasn't left. It's resting, because NI, your dominant function, runs on quiet, spacious, undisturbed inner time. When you're overstimulated and overextended, it has no room to operate. The voice doesn't come back when you push harder. It comes back when you finally stop. So if you're recognizing yourself in some of these, the flatness, the dread of small choices, the craving for disappearance, the silenced intuition, please hear this clearly. You are not failing at being a person. You are running on a system that was never built for constant output. INFJs metabolize the world differently. You process more, feel more, anticipate more, hold more, and the cost of that, the real biological cost, has to be paid somewhere. If it isn't paid in rest, it gets paid in burnout. The warning signs aren't punishments, they're messages. Your body and your psyche have been trying to talk to you in the only language they have. Flatness, fog, avoidance, sensitivity, silence. You don't need to fix anything tonight. You don't need a plan. You just need to listen, to take one of these signs seriously, to let yourself believe that the rest you've been postponing isn't optional and isn't selfish and isn't weakness. Your system works the way it does, and it doesn't need fixing. It needs honoring. If this gave you language for something you've been carrying quietly, you might want to stay a while. There are more reflections here, made for nights exactly like this one, a quiet place for deep minds